Do you want to know how to improve a credit score? Not only just where to find it, but how to improve it? Well, this video is for you. So a question I commonly get from a lot of friends is, how do you get a good credit score? And here, I'm usually between like 760 and 820 for a credit score. And a few of the things that make big impacts on that would be your on-time history. So if you make 100% of your on-time payments, this has a very high impact on your score. Uh, as you make less and less on-time payments, of course, your credit score or credit worthiness goes down. The age of your account has a pretty good impact on your score as well. So if you're fresh out of college or just new to credit in general, it's going to be a red flag just because they don't have any history of do you pay anything back on time or not. So that gets better with the age of your oldest account. That being said, you want to make sure that if you do open a credit card, you keep the oldest one open. And if you're going to close any credit cards or any type of loan balances, you want to close the early, like the newest one first to have the least impact on your credit score. The other thing that's important is the ratio of the credit you use to the credit that's available stays relatively low. What I mean by that is if you have a $10,000 credit limit or something like that, you only want to use, say, $3,000 worth of that per month, or you can pay it off multiple times a month if you can pay it online. And that's because if you can think, if you're a lender lending somebody money and they have maxed out every credit card, to me that's a sign that this person's probably not going to pay me back. So I don't want to give them my money in the meantime for them to potentially pay me back, and they probably won't. But if somebody is responsible with their credit and doesn't necessarily need to use all of that credit all of the time, I'll be more likely to increase the max amount of money I'm willing to lend to them, and I might also reduce the interest rate that I would charge to them because I know they're probably going to pay me back in the future. So it has a very high impact on your score. Now, recent inquiries in the past 2 years, it's pretty low impact on your score. If you do look for a mortgage or some type of loan, they expect that you're going to shop around a little bit. So if you're looking for a house and you want to get a mortgage, if you search everything within the first that 1 week, it'll generally only count as one inquiry, even though there might be like 10 or 20 or whatever it is that you're looking through. But if you space them out over multiple weeks, each one of those will then start to count as an inquiry. So I have a good number of inquiries, but this is because I moved, looked into a couple of rentals, looked into getting a mortgage for a couple of different homes, and so that's where I got the inquiries from, which have dinged the credit score a little bit. The other thing is, you don't want to open too many accounts within a short period of time. Again, that tells the lender, hey, this person doesn't have enough money to pay their bills, so they're opening 5, 10, 15 credit cards. And if they do that within a 2-year period, it's a red flag for them not to necessarily give you as much of an allowable balance, or they might deny you on some credit cards. So that's why it drops your credit score. Total available credit. This is basically how much credit you have. This is on one of the credit cards I have that you can potentially borrow still above what you've already borrowed. So it has a low impact on your credit score. If you can raise that balance, it just means that somebody believes that you're going to pay them back, and if somebody else believes that you're going to pay them back, other people are then more willing to lend you money, because if somebody else gives you money, hey, I'm willing to give that same person money because they don't really know who you are. It's just that's your credit card score, or your credit score in general. So that's how you can look at how your credit score is figured out and ideas to improve it. So, how do you know what is your credit score? So, there are three main credit reporting companies. It's called Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. These are the three big companies that all of your loans and credit card companies and everybody are going to go to pull a credit score. So when I said I'm somewhere between the 760 and 810, 820 range, it depends which one you look at because they all calculate it slightly different, but the impact is basically the same. And they have it, so if you go to annualcreditreport.com, this is authorized by, I think, the federal government to give you one free credit report. You can also directly contact Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion and request once a year them to give you your credit report. They also have things like Credit Karma and other sites that you can go through. Now, the reason you want to get a credit report and look at that, especially if you're looking to buy a home or you're looking to get a loan or any of those things, is where do you stand? Because if your credit score is a 400 versus a 700, that's a different type of interest rate that somebody's willing to give you. If you know you have a 400 credit score, you can do things to improve that so that you don't pay so much money in interest over the life of the loan, whatever that may be, in a car, house, or whatever. The other thing is if you have too low of a credit score, you might not get the loan to begin with, and then it will also be a red mark that somebody else declined you to get a loan. And a lot of times, I mean, even on my credit score a couple of years ago, I had collection agents that had other people's accounts and other people's names on those accounts, putting things against my social, against my credit score. So I had to contact them and negotiate terms of how to get that removed. Now, if you contact Equifax, Experian, or TransUnion, one of the things you can do to help boost your credit score is find whatever those errors are, contact those companies, the Equifax, Experian, or TransUnion, and put it in a dispute. Now, if it's not a real thing against your credit and it's an error, it will remove that from your credit report, and that will immediately increase your credit score. So, even if it may be in collections, one of the things that some of the companies do that try to help you assist you with fixing your credit is they'll put in that type of dispute, and a lot of the collection agents, they don't want to be bothered with reporting back to that dispute. So if they don't say anything back to this dispute, it automatically gets removed within 30 days from your credit report. Now, mortgage lenders and credit card companies and car loans and things like that are going to respond to that dispute. So it can work in some situations. It's generally after it's been in collections and it's been out for many years, you can help erase that from your credit report. The other thing you could do is you can always nicely ask if it's anything's in collections or if anything's past due. You can sometimes settle some of your debt for less than what you actually owe. And that's another ploy that these other companies do, but you could also do it on your own behalf. Some of the phone numbers that I've seen, so you have Experian, TransUnion, Equifax. These are available on a few sites for errors, disputes. If you also want to know what's a good and a bad score, so 300 to 550 is a poor score. If you're anything above 740, it's considered excellent. Generally, when you're going for a mortgage for a home, you want to be in the above 680 score. If you start getting into the 620, I don't know if you remember in 2007, 8, and 9, there was a subprime lending issue. So that's the 620 and below, subprime, where people were just having to state how much income they made. They actually didn't need to prove it, and their credit score sucked. and they were able to buy huge homes that they would never be able to pay back, and they had like these 5-in-1 arms and other things, and effectively that's what led to pretty much the whole collapse of 2007 through 9, and then the Great Recession. So, and then here, just to reiterate, this is for FICO scores. Um, it's mostly your payment history, the debt you owe, meaning what balance do you have compared to how much credit is available, how old is your oldest line of credit. 10% is new credit, 10% is types of credit used. So when I went to go buy my house originally, I had to show that I had three different credits. So I had a car loan, student loans, a ton of student loans, and credit card. So those three enabled me to buy my house, and in 2013 it was only like 2.8% interest, which was extremely low. So it really pays off. Say if you're in the 680 range at that same time period, it might be an extra percentage of interest or so. But if you're buying for every $100,000 of home or loan or whatever it is, if you're paying an extra 1% for each $100,000, that's an extra $1,000 a year you're just paying in interest going to nothing. And if you're buying a house that's several hundreds of thousands, that's several hundreds of dollars a month that you're just throwing away because your credit's not as good. The other thing is, if you have poor credit and you go to apply to a job or something like that, you might run into an issue where you don't get the job, because if you have horrible credit and people can't trust you with money, and then you're behind a cash register or something, I don't know, can I trust you at the end of the day? Is your drawer going to come up short? The other thing that people don't know is, after about 6 months of on-time payments, you can contact your credit card company and you can ask for a credit limit increase. So generally when you open a card, it might be a couple $100, might be 1,000, maybe a couple thousand. So when I started, I had $1,000 limit on my credit card, and then I kept paying it on time, and I asked for a rate increase. They increased it to about 6,000. Then 6 months later, I asked for another rate increase, and they increased it to 11,000, and you just keep going like that. And as long as you're making on-time payments, they're willing to increase that limit because they know they're getting their money back, and they want you to use their card. That being said, make sure that whatever you're buying on your credit card, you could have bought in cash. You do not want to put a lot of purchases on a credit card. The reason being is they charge up to like 29 or so percent interest, which is ridiculously high, and you do not want to waste your money on the interest. My credit card I chose because it pays between 1 and 4% cash back, so every time I go and buy something, I'm actually getting a discount of 1 to 4% everywhere I would have bought stuff anyway, and I only buy what I would have bought in cash, so then I pay it off every single month and I don't carry a balance. That way I make money by using a credit card. The company pays me. I do not pay interest. I don't pay penalties or anything like that. My wife had almost no credit when we first met, so when we went to buy her car, she was unable to get a loan, and what she needed to do is have a cosigner. So I actually had to be the primary person on the loan, and she had to co-sign the loan because her credit was so poor that she wasn't able to sign for herself. So one way to sometimes build up credit is if you have a spouse or somebody that's willing to co-sign a loan. If they have good credit, they can get you a lower interest rate. And also at the same time, you're helping them to build credit. Then with my credit card, I was able to put my wife on my credit card, so she also gets the benefit of that credit boost from, she has that account. Well, it's my account, but she has a credit card on my account, and I pay that every single month on time. We also had some repairs to the old house, and I could either buy it in cash or I could just fix up a furnace, like, and put it on credit. So I took out a 0% interest loan and put her name as a co-signer on that loan and paid it off in 3 months, so that it was yet another account that she was on. So it built the credit through the credit card. She has a car, and also through home improvement loans. So the goal was to be able to have her purchase property in the future. The other one that goes almost without saying is, if you're trying to repair your credit, make sure you pay all your bills on time. Late payments of 30, 60, and 90 days are really what goes on the credit score. And the ones that are going to show up first are going to be your mortgage, your credit card, your car loan, your student loan, those sorts of things. Things that might not show up for a longer time unless they go in collections would be like utilities and things like that. They will eventually show up. It's just that they might not show up right away. So if you have to pick something to pay on time versus not on time, if you have to make that decision, always pay any loan, like car loan, student loan, mortgage, those types of things, credit cards, preferentially over the like utilities and things like that. Generally speaking, the credit cards are going to be some of the highest interest. Also, if you have any money left over at the end of the month and you're going to pay towards something, make sure you pick the highest interest rate first. It's just because if you get rid of that principal, it'll save you money the following month and so forth. So pay down your high interest first. Well, thanks for joining. I hope that this was informative, and if you like what you hear, I'm going to be putting a lot more content on here, so please subscribe. Thank you for your time.